Welcome back to an all new series on the channel. This is gonna be a semi-series, little short videos on basically my assessments of my draft league teams. So essentially, I'm gonna show you what I was working with, go over what I did good, how I used the Pokemon, and then more importantly, things that I learned or things that I now know that I should have done then. You know, we all think of things after we've done them. So I'm going to go through, evaluate stuff, see what's good, see what isn't, and tell you guys how it all worked out. So on the left side here, we have the team that I used with some standard-ish moves that I normally used, kind of how I used the Pokemon, one or two sets that I had. So we're going to go through all of them down here. And then obviously on the right side, we have the Pokemon and their stats. So they should all be kind of in order. If they're not perfectly in order, I'm sorry. I try my best. They're pretty close. So starting off, I'd like to scroll down a little bit. So this Indeedee and Blacephalon, these two are a pair. Probably should have put them closer together. But Indeedee, so this team is kind of loosely based around Psychic Terrain. More so, not based around what Psychic Terrain does damage-wise, but what Psychic Terrain does defensively. So if you don't know, Psychic Terrain is a field effect. It's a terrain where you can't use priority moves on your opponent. It completely takes them out, and then it boosts the damage of Psychic-type moves. So Indeedee is here because Indeedee sets up Psychic Terrain, and it has Follow Me. I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about that a little bit later. Follow Me is a redirection move that makes everything hit Indeedee rather than its partner. And you'll see why that's important here. Usually you don't want your Pokemon to be attacked, but I'll show you kind of what we're thinking, why that is so good here. So back up here at the top, we have Blacephalon. Now Blacephalon is a very, very offensive Pokemon. So as you can see, I'm going to pull up its stats over here. It is 107 speed, 151 special attack. Very, very, very strong. Absolutely offensive. Fire Ghost is a very, very offensive typing. Very good. This thing hits hard. Not only does it hit hard, it also has the ability Beast Boost, which will raise its highest stat after it takes a KO. So, after it hits something, if the Pokemon dies, Blacephalon gets a boost, mostly in its special attack. So, yeah, it is very, very strong. And as you can see, its special attack is already high. To boost that even higher is kind of insane. Some of the good moves here that I have on here, Heat Wave. Heat Wave hits both foes. Again, it's fire type, it's very strong. Special attack set's very high. This a lot of the times wipes some stuff off the field. Shadow Ball, very, very good. Again, stab moves, same type attack bonus. It gets that bonus. It's hitting stuff, knocking them out. Mind Blown is a little bit interesting. This is one that I didn't use very, very often. Excuse me. But what it does do is it will hit everything on the field for 150 base damage, which is absurdly strong. It'll take half my HP, but most of the time it just takes those 2 KOs, which is very, very good. I also have Expanding Force up here. And if you don't know, Expanding Force is it's basically only used in Psychic Terrain. It's a base 80 power move. But when it's in Psychic Terrain, it's boosted by 50%, so 80 to 120. So it's a 120 base power move. And then Psychic Terrain is a 30% boost. So it boosts it 30% again. And then it's split damage, so it hits both. So it ends up being about a 120 base power move into both targets. It's very, very strong. Now, Terra did exist when I pulled this. So most of the time, if I was going for that Expanding Force, I would Terra Psychic to get the stab boost so I could hit things even harder. I was hitting things really, really hard. This was one of my wall breakers. I have the Focus Sash on it, and that's really all I ran on this thing was the Focus Sash. And the reason for that is the Focus Sash allows you to live a hit. It will, yep, you won't get KO'd. You'll be left at 1 HP, which is very, very good if you're frail. Again, this guy's very squishy. Not very good defenses here. 79, 53, and 53 HP. He's not living much. He's very, very frail. So, Indeedee, again, we're going to talk about Indeedee, using Follow Me to get those moves to hit the Indeedee, excuse me, instead of hitting the Blacephalon was very important, because Blacephalon be taking KOs, Indeedee would set up the Psychic Terrain so that nothing could use priority moves to hit it. No sucker punches, nothing like that. And then it would Follow Me, take all those hits while Blacephalon was taking KOs. It was hitting stuff real hard. Indeedee also had its own offenses. It's not great offensively, but when you set up Psychic Terrain and you have Expanding Force, and it goes to, like I said, about that base 120, I think it's 110, but it's about base 120 into both foes, especially if you are a Psychic type, you get the stab on the Psychic type moves. Very, very good. A lot of times I ran some Protect here. I ran some... I don't think I ran Draining Kiss. I ran Dazzling Gleam here, but oh well. I ran Mystical Fire sometimes, Energy Ball sometimes. It just kind of depended on what you... Shadow Ball sometimes. Depended on just what you were up against is what it would have. So it would have Follow Me, Protect, Expanding Force, and then usually one other move to be a very good defensive Pokemon. Now, we're going to see again why Follow Me is very important. This is the cornerstone of this team, is Indeedee being able to make things target it instead of the other important Pokemon on the team. That being said, let's go to another one of those Pokemon. My boy, the infamous competitive Landorus Therian. Now, let's take a look at Landorus Therian stats. A couple of them should jump out at you. Well, one of them. Its attack stat. Its attack stat is 145. That's almost up there with Blacephalon's special attack stat. Now, Landorus is very offensive. It is very strong. A lot of times I'd run it with Choice Band to Earthquake, Choice Band to Rock Slide. Choice Band to Knockoff was always good. If I wanted to get out of there and do some damage, U-Turn's always a good option. This thing had a lot of utility, a lot of things that I had. Sometimes I ran Terra Flying, Terra Blast. You know, sometimes I ran Z-Move on it. Sometimes I ran Choice Scarf on it. I ran Assault Vest on it sometimes. This thing is very, very diverse. And you're probably thinking, well, it's not that bulky. Well, the problem with it is a lot of times you'd be investing in special defense. So your base 80 special defense, you know, you'd bump it up, get it higher. But its physical defense is okay. It's pretty good. But it was even more brutal with the Intimidate. Intimidate's -1 on their attack. It gets rid of their attack stat easily. This thing is a lot bulkier than it looks here, because this and this get really high. So HP and defense get really, really up there with just Intimidate, and then the defense, you invest in defenses, you're pretty bulky. You put an Assault Vest on this thing, nothing's really taking it out other than an Ice type move. And basically, all you gotta do, keep this thing away from Ice types. Not that crazy, not that hard either. Very, very fun Pokemon. I liked it a lot. This thing could do a ton of damage. So, yeah, another good thing to slot right next to Indeedee. Alright, one of my favorites on the team. This is probably the most broken Pokemon on my entire team. And if you don't know Kommo, its stats probably look pretty okay, especially next to the other two that we've looked at. They look okay. Well, it's holding the Kommo EMZ. Kommo EMZ boosts this move right here, which is Clanging Scales. Okay, I don't know if that messed up my recording and all, but we'll find out. So this is Clanging Scales, which hits both Pokemon and it's base 110. Again, very strong, kind of like a Mind Blown type thing. Very strong, doesn't take half your HP. Well, if you use the Como EMZ and use Clanging Scales, that 110 move goes to 190, and then afterward, you get +1 in every single stat. Every single stat. And that makes its offenses, right? Its offenses, which are all pretty decent, makes them insane. Insane. Its special attack goes up uku bananas so much. Its defenses go up. It's already a very, very defensive typing. Its speed goes up. You cannot touch this thing after it gets that Clanging Scales off. After that, you can go for some Boom Burst, you can go for Flash Cannon, you can go for Clanging Scales again, hit both Pokemon again. Doesn't matter if your defense is lowered, because you already just raised it one time, so might as well let it fly. This is the best Pokemon on my team, and the best one to put next to Indeedee. Now, you've heard me talk about a lot of offensive Pokemon. We're going to go right next to another offensive Pokemon. So when we did this, when we went in and did this was just at the very start of Scarlet and Violet, and I have a knack of doing a lot of research into teams and team styles and team competitions. I have a knack for doing a lot of research. Gallade got sharpness in this generation, and nobody knew about it in the server. That's why this thing is so low. It's in tier 2. It should not be in tier 2. Like Como should be up there. So what this thing does really, really well is sharpness boosts its attacks, all slicing attacks, by 1.5. Now, it's already high. 125 attack stat, which is pretty darn high, is very, very good for those offensive moves. Now, these three moves, very offensive, hit like a truck. You can make this thing decently bulky. Its defenses are kind of meh, but you can make it live a hit. What I mostly did was since it's not super fast, I would use Follow Me with Indeedee, and Indeedee would set up the Psychic Terrain, which would boost the Psychic type moves. Again, so they have high critical hit ratio, they're boosted by Sharpness, and boosted by Psychic Terrain, plus they're also Stab. So this thing is hitting like an absolute truck. Very, very absurdly strong. Again, the team competition, compilation, the team comp, whatever that word is centered around Follow Me and how good Follow Me is. So that's really what this is. Alright. Let's skip Volbeat for now. We'll come back to this menacing little bug here. Let's go to Colossal. Colossal, my GOAT. I took this strategy from Wolf Glick. I was watching some of his stuff. I was doing some stuff, watching Wolf Glick, and I saw him use Colossal Weakness Policy Steam Engine. And he would use Aqua Jet in his Colossal. His Colossal Steam Engine raises you to +6. Weakness Policy procs, you get to +2. So you're +6 speed, +2 attack and special attack stat. His attack is already pretty freaking decent. 80's not bad. And it's really bulky. Like absurdly bulky. And this thing is just supposed to, after it gets hit, nothing's supposed to outspeed it, and it's supposed to hit everything like a truck. Very, very strong. So I use that a lot to proc Colossal, make it be goated, and it was just so, so good. So another sweeper, a lot of these Pokemon are just offensive threats. This thing takes a little bit of setup, but again, it's an offensive threat. Alright. Let's go into Volbeat. I'm missing a move here. But this thing is just utility. So this thing is Prankster, and if you don't know, Prankster makes all non-attacking moves go first. So, very, very good. So you could Tailwind first turn, and you'd be doubled speed before anything else got to move. Very, very good. If somebody protected in front of you, you could Encore it the next turn, and then they're locked into Protect forever. You got some Stealth Rocks on the field, Defog. Got Terrain on the field, Defog. This thing also gets Tail Glow, which ups its special attack by 2 stages. And if you don't know Volbeat, Volbeat's not a great special attacker. If we look down here, Volbeat's special attack is a pitiful 47. So it's not really using that Tail Glow. Well, what it does get is a Baton Pass. And since it is a non-attacking move, it will always go first. So you Tail Glow. Mostly, this is, again, paired with Indeedee. If you're Tail Glowing, you Tail Glow, follow me, and then you Baton Pass into any of the Pokemon that I just told you about. Blacephalon, Kommo-o, Colossal, even mons that I haven't mentioned yet. Tail Glow, Baton Pass, and your +3 special attack. That's insane. Not a lot of things are beating that. It is so, so good. Just an absurdly strong Pokemon. So, yeah. Let's see. Let's move on. Another Pokemon that I think is way too good to be where it's at is Primarina. If we take a look at its stats, again, very, very offensive. As you can see, this team is offensive out the wazoo. Insanely offensive. Now, this Pokemon is slow. It does get Liquid Voice, which makes sound-based moves water-type and gives them a stab boost. So things like Hyper Voice hit both Pokemon. Going to be water-type, going to be stab moves. Very, very good. Things like Moonblast hit very hard. Scald, again, hits very hard. Burns Pokemon. Very, very good. Icy Wind for speed control. This thing's a really, really good support Pokemon. Gets a lot of really, really good moves. It's just kind of bananas. Ice Beam there. Pear Song even. Light Screen even. Sparkling Aura. Just some very, very good moves here. Helping Hand, Water Pledge if I needed it. Just very strong. Very, very strong Pokemon. Love Primarina. Definitely take advantage of the Follow Me. And can just be an offensive or defensive Pokemon. I mean, special defense is high. HP is pretty decent. Defense, maybe not so much, but hey, just don't get hit with a special move or a physical move, and you'll be alright. This paired with Landorus is very good because Landorus, again, can support that defense. Or this paired with our next Pokemon, Torracat. Torracat also has Intimidate. You may look at Torracat and be like, well, it's kind of a weird Pokemon to put on here, Incineroar is so much better, and you're absolutely right, Incineroar is better, but it's a tier higher. It's a lot more than what I bargained for, so this thing is a very, very good support, low tier. It also gets Fake Out, it gets Will-O-Wisp, it gets Parting Shot, Eviolite makes it very bulky, again, making its defenses with the Eviolite go up to, 75? And then you have the Intimidate, which makes it just go up even higher. It's very, very good. And Will-O-Wisp, taking your foe's attack stats down. Very, very good. This is probably one of the best Pokemon in the game. Not a lot I could talk about. Usually we ran these 3 moves and then a final move, whether it was Flamethrower or Flare Blitz or whatever it may be. It's always something interesting. Alright. Again, another Pokemon I don't think should be this low because of how offensive it is. If we look at its offensive stats, 125 is very good. For offensive stats, I know I've been saying offensive stats good, offensive stats good. Anything above 100 is a good offensive stat. 125 is 25% stronger than good, you know? And even my weakest Pokemon have been 125 attack stats. So, not bad. Not bad at all. This thing had Expanding Force, so Indeedee setting up the Psychic Terrain, very, very good for this. It also had Trick Room because it is slow. I ran Trick Room Colossal one time, it's very good. Energy Ball, Flash Cannon, it gets a lot of good coverage moves here. Let's see those good coverage moves. Gets Hidden Powers. Let's see, Psychic is decent. Shadow Ball is very good, Signal Beam is very good. It does not get Thunderbolt. I remember being so upset about that, but it is what it is. This Pokemon is very, very good. Has 2 amazing abilities. Magic Guard can only take damage from direct attacks, which means if I get Toxic, it's not going to affect me. If I get burned, it's not going to affect me. Life Orb is not going to have any chip damage, so Life Orb is still going to boost all of my moves and not take chip damage. Very, very good. Its other very, very good ability is Regenerator. Every time I switch out, I get 30% of my health back. Again, absolutely amazing. Oh my goodness, amazing. Overcoat, decent. The only real reason I ran Overcoat was to make sure I didn't get spored from a Moongus. So, there's that. Moving on. This is one that I didn't get to use as much as I wanted it to. But when I drafted this team, I said, oh, I want Psychic Terrain, I want some setup Pokemon, I want some... And then the other thing I wanted was I wanted Discharge and Earthquake. And with Emolga and Landorus Therian, I could Discharge because Landorus was a ground type, and I could Earthquake with Landorus because Emolga was a flying type. So I could just run Discharge and Earthquake very, very well. It's not very offensive, but it can do the job. It got Tailwind. I mostly use this as support. I didn't really do Discharge Earthquake that much. Tailwind, very, very good support. Again, Nuzzle, very, very good support. Paralyzes everything. Knockoff, again, does a little bit of damage, takes their item. Very, very good for things with Specs or Sash or something like that. You know, Life Orb even, very, very good. So this thing I didn't get to use very much. It gets some good moves, Air Slash, Energy Ball, Light Screen, Roost, Signal Beam. It gets some good moves. Volt Switch and U-Turn even. I just didn't get to use it very much. Electro Web would have been very good. Helping Hand would have been very good. Again, didn't get to use it. I would have loved to use stuff like Skill Swap, things like that. So, yeah. One of the Pokemon that I didn't use well enough, in my opinion. One of the Pokemon that I did use well enough is Simisage. Now, let's take a look at its moves first. Actually, let's take a look at its stats. I'm going to warn you ahead of time. Its stats aren't great. It's okay. Not great. Not terrible. It's okay. Like I said, base 100 is good. It being 98 made it usable, but nothing that was going to sweep teams. So this is my standard set, almost to a T. I really didn't run anything different. Spiky Shield is Protect, but if something hits it, it loses an eighth of its health. Very, very good to break sashes, do some little extra damage, do some chippies. Knockoff, very good to remove items. Again, this thing I would Terra Dark a lot of the times to get some extra damage. Rock Slide, very, very good. Again, Rock Slide hits both opponents, has 30% chance to flinch. This thing being decently fast at 101 is pretty good. Seed Bomb is a stab move. It's just a good move here. The other one I ran on this quite frequently is Brick Break. Run Brick Break, destroy streams, and be a good fighting type move. Sometimes I ran Acrobatics. I don't know that I ran it a lot, but yeah. Some very, very good moves here. Gluttony allows a Pokemon to eat berries at half health that it would usually eat at a quarter. Now, Simisage isn't super bulky, so this wasn't a huge problem, but what I ran usually was Lychee Berry. Lychee Berry ups your attack stat by 1 stage once you hit a quarter health. If you remember, we just read Gluttony, which anything that happens at a quarter health now happens at a half. So if this thing got to half HP, it would get an attack raise. So this thing could potentially get stronger. Very, very good item on this thing. Grass is not... It's a decently defensive typing. It's not great. I'm not gonna say it's great, but when you position this thing really well, you can get some use out of Gluttony and Lychee Berry. So, yeah. All right, Mightyena. Mightyena is another utility Pokemon. It's a utility Pokemon without any utility. It's just here for Intimidate. It's just here for Intimidate. And I know I have 2 Intimidators already. Needed another one. Cannot have too much Intimidate. A lot of people in this draft league don't know a lot of the differences between physical and special, so they just pick the hardest hitting physical attackers and go with it. So Intimidate's very helpful. Crunch for stab moves, some coverage moves. Sucker Punch, again, a stab move. That goes first because I ain't very fast and I don't got a lot of stats. So, yeah. Moving on. Sliggoo Hisui. I don't have a lot to say about this. Kind of bulky. Can hold the Eviolite. Other than bulky, it's not very offensive. 83 special attack. Not great. I used it for chilling water, so I could lower some attack stats. Again, just like Intimidate. Can never lower too many attack stats. Had some decent moves every now and then. It's slow. Not great. But overall, if we go back to the top and we look at how many offensive threats there are, it is a miracle that I didn't win. Absurdly strong. Absurdly powerful. I got second place. And I lost to who you'll see in the future, the Glaceon. So, yeah, this is the team. This is all the interesting things I did with it. I really liked it. I enjoyed it. It was very good. But, again, yeah. Very fun. Very, very fun. I would love to use this team again. Almost all of these Pokemon went up a tier or 2. Almost all of them. Just because of how I use them and how good they are. So, I should have won this one. I'm not super salty. Glaceon played really, really well. So, yeah. That's going to end the first one of these. So, I'm going to end it off. I'm going to do all the way up to Season 6. So, yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked the video, leave a like, comment, subscribe. Do everything the YouTubers tell you to do. And we will see you guys next time. Bye!